Josh with Industrial Compressor Solutions. I'm here with Aaron, and we have just finished reinstalling the basket, and we've tightened down the lid. We are ready to put on the scavenge line and the other control piping and lines that have to go back on before we can run the compressor. We want to be very careful starting with the scavenge line. The scavenge line, I usually like to put a new one in. I don't like reusing them because once that ferrule's on there, it's not a good idea to try to reuse it outside of an emergency scenario. But the scavenge line, the function of the scavenge line is to bring any oil that makes it through the separator basket back to the suction side of the air end. A lot of times it's cut on an angle, and because it's cut on an angle, installing it can be a little bit tricky, because if we don't do it right, this could puncture the separator basket. Then we get a whole lot of oil coming through. So we want to be very careful. Like I said, I like to use a new one. In this case, we are going to reuse this one. We're not going to use Teflon tape here. Instead, we're going to use a little bit of anaerobic sealant, just a little dot, and we're going to set this into place. We want to make sure that the scavenge line is touching the base of the separator, but not that we puncture it. Remembering also, if the scavenge line is not touching the base of the separator, then oil will be collecting in that. So nice and carefully, you're going to put that back in there. In this case, there's an orifice plate in here. Like I said, usually, well, this would be a check valve actually on this one. On this check valve, we want to make sure the check valve is going away from the separator. And also, like we said, I like to replace them every time. Now, I hand tight both of the fittings, but then we want to back up our wrenches. And we want to be very careful with the proper fittings . On this one, we want to be careful with a tube that's bent like this, because if we put a lot of torque on this and we're not careful, we could bend this up and or break it. So we just want to be nice and careful. Is that half? It might be a 9/16. So Okay. Next, we're going to install the blowdown valve. This is a JIC style fitting. So, unlike my young friend here, I'm going to put a little NICs on. Go ahead, please, sir. It should start nice and easy. Remember, we don't want to force this on. We don't want to risk cross-threading fittings. We just want to be nice and careful. We'll back up our wrenches so we don't put unnecessary torque. Very good. And on this one, we'll make sure that we have a nice, clean, even cut. And then we'll reattach our 1/4 inch shiver. We want to make sure after we reattach it that it won't come back out. Okay, this one does, see? And we would need to address that before we put the compressor back on, either by cutting this straight, taking it back a little bit and cutting it straight, or replacing the fitting, whatever's necessary. Okay. Next, we are going to reattach the discharge line. It's very important, and obviously there's a lot of differences between different ones, but it's very important that we start this correctly. And I actually like to put anti-seize on these threads as well. Just a little drip. Let me get in here real quick. And it'll chase around those threads. But we want to get both sides started. And it should come up nice and easy. There should be no concern whatsoever about that. And your forward wrench, sir, should be here. Then with the forward wrench, we would go ahead and finish tightening this up. Yet again, we want to make sure we're using a proper wrenches, proper tools, make sure everything is clean and clear, and that we can do this all easily. If something is jamming up, take a second, relax, and kind of figure out what the problem is. All right. Once again, thank you very much. The last section in just a minute, we're going to go through bringing your compressor back online and some of the things to look for when you do so. Thanks again.